Hello world, welcome, I'm your host, Mr. Stagg. If you're into business legends and origin stories that shaped the modern digital world, hit that like button, subscribe and share this video. Today, we're diving into the story of a company whose products are on nearly every computer, every AD agency desk, and in every designer's toolkit. They didn't build hardware, they built the creative engine of the internet, and yet most people couldn't name its founders. They don't know about the quiet Stanford engineers who turned an academic idea into a $200 billion behemoth and helped define the digital age. This is the story of Adobe, the quiet giant behind Photoshop, Illustrator, Acrobat, Premiere Pro, and the PDF itself. But what's even more fascinating is how it all began. With a Xerox exit, a typographic breakthrough, and a decision that would power the digital publishing revolution. This is how Adobe changed the creative world forever. It all started in 1982 when two engineers, John Warnock and Charles Geschke, left Xerox PARC, one of the most advanced tech labs in the world. At PARC, they had developed something revolutionary, a page description language that could tell a printer exactly how to render images and text. But Xerox didn't see the vision. Frustrated, they left. With a $2.5 million investment from Apple co-founder Steve Jobs, they launched Adobe Systems from a small office in Mountain View, California. The company was named after Adobe Creek, which ran behind Warnock's house. Warnock, born in 1940 in Utah, held a PhD in electrical engineering and was a gifted mathematician. Geschke, born in 1939 in Cleveland, had a background in computer science and Catholic education before earning his PhD at Carnegie Mellon. The duo balanced technical genius with leadership poise. Warnock was the visionary. Geschke was the diplomat. Jobs wanted to buy Adobe outright. They said no. Instead, they licensed their product, PostScript, to Apple, which used it in the Macintosh and LaserWriter. That decision made Adobe one of the first companies to turn a profit in its first year of operations. PostScript wasn't just a printer language, it was a language for the future of digital publishing. In the mid-1980s, PostScript, combined with Apple's hardware, gave birth to what's now known as desktop publishing. Steve Jobs offered $5 million to license PostScript for Apple's new LaserWriter printer. Suddenly, magazines, newspapers, and marketing departments could produce professional quality documents without massive printing presses. Adobe's PostScript was licensable, and hardware companies like HP, Canon, and others adopted it. The royalty stream fueled Adobe's early growth. By 1986, Adobe went public, raising $6 million at a valuation of $50 million. More importantly, they were now at the center of a growing creative ecosystem. But they weren't stopping there. In 1987, brothers Thomas and John Knoll developed an image editing program called Display, which caught Adobe's attention. Adobe purchased the rights, renamed it Photoshop, and released version 1.0 in 1990. It exploded in popularity. Adobe now had the crown jewel of the creative industry. They followed it up with Illustrator, which handled vector graphics, and Premiere for video editing. By the early 2000s, Adobe bundled its tools into what became known as the Creative Suite, offering Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere Pro, and Acrobat in one powerful package. For creatives, this was the ultimate toolbox. For Adobe, it was a recurring revenue machine in the making. In the early 90s, Adobe made another bet, a universal file format. At the time, sharing documents between computers was a nightmare. Fonts would break, layouts would collapse, enter the portable document format, or PDF. Warnock led the charge. It was part of his Camelot project, his dream of creating a consistent way to share documents across platforms. The PDF launched in 1993, and while adoption was slow at first, the file format became an internet staple once Adobe made its reader free. Today, billions of PDFs are exchanged globally, contracts, reports, resumes, even IRS forms. Adobe had created a standard that would last for decades. While Adobe's products transformed industries, its leadership culture quietly shaped the company's DNA. From the beginning, founders John Warnock and Charles Geschke set a tone of innovation without ego, a principle that guided Adobe through each era of change. Even after Warnock and Geschke stepped back from day-to-day operations in the early 2000s, their values remained embedded in every decision. In 2007, a new chapter began as Shantanu Narayan took the helm as CEO. Born in India, Narayan brought a global perspective and a relentless drive for innovation. His experience at Apple and Silicon Graphics helped him steer Adobe into the cloud computing era, championing mobile-first design and pushing the integration of AI-powered creative tools like Adobe Firefly. Under Narayan's leadership, Adobe didn't just lead in software, they became a model for corporate culture. The company consistently earned spots on best places to work lists, thanks to its investments in diversity, remote work infrastructure, and employee well-being. Adobe also reached out beyond its walls, launching education initiatives that provided free or discounted tools to students and schools around the world, ensuring that the next generation of creatives had access to industry-standard software. This commitment to both innovation and people helped Adobe stay ahead of the curve, fostering an environment where bold ideas could flourish and where the company's impact extended far beyond the products it built. Adobe's rise to dominance wasn't just about great software, it was about making bold, even controversial business decisions that most of their peers weren't willing to make. One of the biggest strategic shifts came in 2012 when Adobe moved away from selling its software as a one-time purchase and transitioned to a subscription-based model through Adobe Creative Cloud. This was a radical move. Before then, software like Photoshop or Illustrator would cost users hundreds, sometimes over $1,000 just to own a license. Updates were expensive and infrequent. Adobe knew this model was outdated. By switching to a monthly or annual subscription, Adobe drastically lowered the upfront cost, making their tools more accessible to freelancers, students, and smaller creative teams. The subscription model also gave Adobe predictable recurring revenue, something investors love, and something that allowed them to reinvest in faster development cycles and more innovation. This pivot wasn't popular at first. Longtime users were furious about losing the ability to own their software, but Adobe stuck to its vision. Over time, it paid off. Revenue surged. In fact, Adobe's market cap more than quadrupled in just 5 years after the move to the cloud, but that was just one piece of their strategy. Adobe also understood the power of ecosystems. Rather than making isolated tools, Adobe focused on tightly integrating products like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, After Effects, and Lightroom into a creative suite that professionals could rely on across disciplines: design, photography, video, animation, and more. This integration made Adobe nearly irreplaceable. A designer might start with a sketch in Photoshop, vectorize it in Illustrator, animate it in After Effects, and edit the final piece in Premiere Pro. Each product reinforced the other, making it harder for competitors to lure customers away with standalone alternatives. Adobe also leaned heavily into data-driven products. With the acquisition of companies like Omniture, Magento, and Marketo, Adobe built out its Experience Cloud, entering the world of digital marketing, customer analytics, and e-commerce tools. This expanded Adobe's reach far beyond creatives into the world of CMOs, advertisers, and enterprise marketing teams. The strategic balance between serving creative professionals and enterprise marketers gave Adobe diversified income streams and cross-departmental influence inside major corporations. Finally, Adobe has always invested in acquisitions that fill gaps. Behance helped create a social network for creatives. Frame.io made collaborative video editing seamless. Figma, although facing regulatory scrutiny, was a $20 billion move to dominate the future of collaborative design in the browser. In 2023, the deal collapsed. Adobe didn't just build great products. They built a business model designed to adapt, dominate, and expand across industries. Their strategy wasn't to compete on price, but to be so essential that creatives and corporations couldn't imagine their workflows without Adobe. Adobe isn't without critics. Users complain about high subscription costs, aggressive upselling, and software bloat. Its decision to kill standalone products sparked years of backlash. Adobe isn't resting, it's investing heavily in AI, generative design, and machine learning through Adobe Sensei. In 2023, they launched Firefly, an AI image generator trained exclusively on licensed and proprietary content aimed at avoiding the copyright controversies plaguing tools like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion. They've also built AI-assisted editing into Photoshop, Premiere, and Illustrator, letting creators generate, remove, or replace elements with a click. Adobe's not just adapting to the AI wave, it's trying to own it. Charles Geschke, or Chuck, passed away in 2021 at age 81. He left behind a legacy not just of innovation, but of ethics and leadership. He was worth an estimated $300 million at the time of his death. John Warnock passed in 2023 at the age of 82 with a net worth estimated at $600 million. He'd stepped away from day-to-day operations but remained on Adobe's board until the end. These two men didn't want to run a company, they just wanted to see their software change the world, and they did. Adobe's future lies at the intersection of creativity and artificial intelligence. With AI tools augmenting human creativity, Adobe is positioning itself as the bridge, not the threat. As the metaverse 3D content and immersive design gain traction, Adobe is already experimenting with AR and VR development platforms. The company continues to serve over 25 million Creative Cloud subscribers and powers billions of digital experiences each year. And while other tech companies chase the spotlight, Adobe remains consistent, essential, and quietly dominant. A $1,000 investment in Adobe's 1986 IPO would be worth approximately $345,000 today, a staggering 34,400% return. From a creekside office in California to a $240 billion software empire, Adobe's story is a masterclass in product focus, technical excellence, and smart pivots. If you enjoyed this origin story, like, comment, and subscribe to Stag Research, your go-to channel for deep dives into the companies shaping our future. Got thoughts on where Adobe's heading? Drop them in the comments. Mr. Stag, logging off.